Hello friends, I am Dr. Pranav Khoche from Department of English, Nutan Vidya Prasarak Mandals, Arts, Commerce and Science College, Lasalgaon, and we are going to deal with TYBA English Special Paper 3, that is Appreciating Novel, prescribed in Savitribai Phule, Pune University. And we are also dealing with elements of novel, a part of theory of novel. And in today's lecture, we are going to deal with local color, atmosphere and theme. You know that in the last lecture, we discussed the earlier element of novel, that is setting. And local color and atmosphere, they are quite closely related to setting. So let's see the description or a kind of definition of local color. The words local and color tell much about this particular element. The detailed representation of setting, dialect, customs and traditions, dressing styles and ways of thinking and feeling which are distinctive of a particular region is called the local color. Let's discuss this definition in detail. The detailed representation of the setting, that includes the place, its peculiarities, its specifics, how that place is different from other places. That is the detailed representation of the setting, not only the place but also of dialects. Dialects, they are the spoken forms. They are the spoken forms of any particular language generally, right? So dialects, various dialects. For example, in Maharashtra itself, there are several dialects of Marathi, or we can call them separate languages, but because they do not have their own script, written script, we generally prefer to call them as dialects. For example, we have Konkani, we have Airani, we have Khandeshi, we have Agri, we have so many other, for example, Nagpuri language, right? So many dialects of Marathi are there, right? So, setting, dialects, customs and traditions. What are the customs and what are the traditions that have been followed in a particular region? That also comes under the local color. All these things, colors. All these things are the colors of that particular region, of that particular locality, and therefore the local color name for this element is very apt, very appropriate. So customs and traditions. Again, to understand this term, we will take example of Maharashtra. In different parts of Maharashtra, various festivals are celebrated in slightly different way. Even festivals like Ganeshotsav, they are celebrated in different, slightly different way in different parts of Maharashtra, right? So, and again in the remote parts, the customs and traditions can be different. So the customs and traditions followed in a particular region, they become an important part of local color. Then comes dressing styles. Then comes dressing styles. It is not very difficult to understand the words dressing styles. Again, for example, in different states of Maharashtra, the traditional dressings are quite different from each other, right? So, dresses, how the dresses are worn by those people, the people of particular locality. Suppose if you go to Konkan part, the dressing will be slightly different than the dresses, the traditional dresses in, say, Nasik region, right? So, dressing styles and ways of thinking and feeling, this becomes very important. How people behave with each other, what they think about a particular thing like some development, what they think about environment, what people think about the other people, right? So ways of thinking and feeling, how they look at a particular occasion, that is also many times closely related to that particular distinctive region, that particular region. And all these elements, right, which are distinctive, which are very unique of a particular region, is called the local color. They kind of make that representation of the setting, detailed representation of the setting, dialect or dialects, customs and traditions, dressing styles, and very importantly, ways of thinking and feeling, which are distinctive of particular region, is called the local color. For example, in novels of, say, R.K. Narayan, Indian English novelist, his characters are bound by the local ways of thinking and feeling. When we talk about Raju and his development as a Mahatma in The Guide, his novel The Guide by R.K. Narayan, the people take him as Mahatma, as saint, though he does not pretend to be a saint earlier. But it is their way of thinking and feeling that this scholar person will solve all our problems. So that is, if Raju had gone to a city, a very modern city, like say Mumbai, then people would not have asked all these things to him. But right? So the effect, or as we are going to discuss in this particular slide, that Thomas Hardy describes Wessex in his novels, detailing the rural agrarian England. And this particular Wessex, the local colour of Wessex described in Hardy's novels, they play a very important part in the development of the plot as well as the fate of a particular character, or what will happen to that particular character. In the last lecture, I have said that in some novels, settings may become even more important than characters. And this is what happens in the novels of Hardy and R.K. Narayan, right? Because they use the local color very effectively, the dialects, the ways of life, the ways of living, the ways of thinking and feeling of those particular people very effectively. And therefore, these details become an important part. Thomas Hardy's characters, if you take example of Henchard, Michael Henchard from the mayor of Casterbridge, he is a peasant. He is a kind of hay collector. He collects the dry grass and sells it. All those things he do. Agrarian, a typical agrarian work of rural England. But because he lives in that particular region, he has certain habits like drinking. And because he belongs to a particular strata, he has a habit of kind of playing cards. And in a game of cards, or in that particular game, he loses his wife. He is so drunk that he has no money with him, and then he has to have something for that game because he has no money, right? He pawns his wife and daughter, and obviously in that drunkardness, in that intoxication, he loses that game and he loses his wife and daughter. So why this happens? Because he belongs to a particular social strata, a particular region in which the, this kind of game, this kind of gambling is played, right? He gambles, and in that gambling he loses his wife and daughter. As I said, in R.K. Narayan's Malgudi, both of these regions are imaginary regions. Please try to understand. To show the local color, Thomas Hardy describes Wessex, but Wessex is an imaginary name given by Thomas Hardy to certain regions of Sussex in England. But he uses an imaginary name in the same way to show the local color of South India, right? That too, some cities and villages of South India. R.K. Narayan uses Malgudi in almost all his novels, right? So, because Raju goes to Mangala near Malgudi, right? In the guide, in the novel The Guide, he is treated with respect and he is taken as some saint who will solve all the problems of that village, right? So, therefore, these use of local color can be very effective. The next element is again quite closely related to the element of setting, that is atmosphere. Atmosphere is the emotional tone. Atmosphere is the emotional tone spreading or pervading, existing a section or the whole of a literary work, which develops the reader's expectations regarding a course of the events to proceed, whether happy or terrifying, as or disastrous, or sometimes sad. So we know from that particular emotional tone which is produced by certain objects of or certain aspects of setting. Gloomy setting, for example, shows, dark setting shows that something bad is going to happen, right? Or a night with thunderstorm, lightning, right? It also indicates that something sinister is going to take place. So, in the novel, atmosphere is the emotional tone. It may be that particular tone, that particular atmosphere can be only in a section or it can be in the whole of the literary work, right? Certain, as I told you, certain aspects of setting, they invite certain emotional tones, right? And then the reader's expectations are developed because of certain emotional tones. Reader's expectations are developed regarding what is going to happen now in the novel or in that particular literary work. We understand or we expect that now something happy is going to happen, or something terrifying or something sad or disastrous will take place, will occur. Alternatively, mood or ambience are the terms used for atmosphere. You may find certain different descriptions for these two terms, mood or ambience, but they are very closely related again to atmosphere sometimes, and they are used alternatively as well. For example, the prescribed novel Animal Farm by George Orwell. In this novel, Snowball, a prominent character, is expelled, is driven away from the animal farm, right? You will know when you will read the novel. So, Snowball has been expelled, he has been driven out from the novel. He has been chased away by some fierce dogs, and Napoleon, the other prominent pig in the novel, the other prominent character in the novel, has shown as very angry and in very murderous mood, as we say. And all this scene of Snowball's expulsion sets the expectation for the terrible events that take place later. What takes place later? That many animals have been slaughtered after the Snowball's expulsion. Or in The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway, the novel which is prescribed for the second term, the protagonist, Santiago, protagonist as we know is the central character, the old man in the novel, right? So Santiago, his determined utterance, what is that utterance? Man can be destroyed, but he cannot be defeated, sets the expectations of the reader that this particular old man, Santiago, is going to fight all the difficulties. He has caught a very big fish, a very big marlin. Marlin is a very big fish. It is even bigger than Santiago's boat. But Santiago tells that fish, he is talking to that fish and he says that man can be destroyed but he cannot be defeated. Right? So he is very determined that even he is destroyed but he won't accept any defeat, and we expect, because of these utterances, this emotional tone of determination, we expect that Santiago is going to fight all the odds, all the difficulties, and exactly that is what he does. Or when the sharks arrive to eat that marlin, many sharks are the big carnivorous fish in the ocean, right? They are called the bulls of the ocean or bulls of the sea. So when sharks arrives, we know that this particular old man, Santiago, is going to have a long and painful struggle. So this particular event of sharks, when they come and try eating that particular marlin, that particular fish, we know that the atmosphere is set for Santiago's long and painful struggle. A very important element in any literary work, not only in a novel or a short story, but even in poetry or drama, the very important element is theme. What is the theme? Theme is the central idea in a literary work. Central idea in a literary work around which the plot develops. Please remember, novelist develops all the plot of the novel because he has certain central idea, certain significant idea in his mind, and he wants that idea to develop, and therefore he develops the plot in a particular way. It is a general or universal idea. These two words are important. General or universal idea, that is, it applies to all human beings. So that particular central idea or theme does not apply only to the characters, only to that particular characters, but it is a central, it is a general, or it is a universal idea which applies to all human beings, and therefore reading of a novel becomes so interesting. So it applies to all human beings, which is made particular. Though the idea is universal, in that particular novel, in that specific novel, it is made particular through the literary work. So the literary work represents a particular universal idea. The literary work represents a particular universal idea, and when we read that literary work, we think that, oh, this particular idea, this particular concept applies to us as well. When we, for example, when we see a character suffer, right? Because of his foolishness or because of his wrong decisions. We understand that this may happen to us. Or when a particular character feels love, that is, if the theme of any particular story is love theme, then we also get very much attached to that particular theme of love, because we human beings also have this feeling of love, which is very much universal. Think about the short story which had been prescribed for you. The short story's name is Romance of a Busy Broker by O. Henry. So, Mr. Harvey Maxwell, he feels love for Leslie, for Miss Leslie, his secretary, and he proposes her. And we also enjoy that particular scene of his proposal because it is a universal emotion for which all human beings feel. At the same time, his theme of forgetfulness, we do not say that the theme of that short story, Romance of a Busy Broker, is Harvey Maxwell's forgetfulness, but we say that theme of the story is just forgetfulness. Why we say forgetfulness? Because it applies to all human beings, right? Many of us can be forgetful, like Harvey Maxwell, right? So, it is an abstract idea. Theme is an abstract idea or a concept, whether implicit in the novel or asserted, that is manifested and incorporated in the novel, that is manifested, that is, it comes to a form, right? We understand that particular concept through the events, characters, their actions and motives. How do we understand theme? How do you understand that theme of this particular story, Romance of a Busy Broker, is forgetfulness? Because Harvey Maxwell is shown as a very forgetful man, and he forgets even his own marriage with Leslie, and he again proposes her the next morning, right? And therefore, this particular event of proposing Leslie and Leslie's telling him that they have already got married, right? They have already got married, this particular event or their actions and motives, they, all these elements develop, manifest and incorporate the theme in a particular piece of literature, right? So we will see again that theme is the central idea in literary work, around which the plot develops. General or universal idea because it applies to all human beings. Though it is a general or universal idea, it is made particular through the literary work, right? When Robert Burns, when the speaker in the poem Red Red Rose says that my love is like a red red rose, though the speaker is speaking his own love, but as I earlier said that love is an emotion which is universal, we may also feel the same in the poem, or we also enjoy that poem because it is universal concept, right? And how a theme is developed? A theme is developed, manifested, incorporated through the events in a literary work, the characters, their actions and motives in literary work. It is called the theme. So friends, as we are going to discuss theme little bit further, many times the title of the work represents or suggests the theme. Sometimes the title clearly suggests the theme, then we, the readers, are very comfortable to find out the theme because the title itself suggests, it itself tells, sometimes very directly, the theme of the novel. Otherwise, when the title does not suggest or show or represents any particular theme, then we have to find out the theme of a literary work through events, characters, their actions, motives, etc. But in some cases, the title represents the theme. For example, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. We immediately know the theme itself is pride and prejudice, which has been manifested through the actions of characters. Or Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky, War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, The Trial by Franz Kafka, or The Outsider by Albert Camus. All these titles suggest that the titles themselves are very much related to the theme in those novels. So friends, in this particular lecture, we have discussed three important elements of the novel. That is local color, then atmosphere, and again a very important element of theme. I hope you have understood well these three elements. Please try to find out all the elements of novel in the novels or in literary works you have already read. Whether they are in Marathi or Hindi or English, that does not matter. But to understand these elements, you must relate these elements to the literary works, even stories, because they are also narrative works that you have read. Okay. Thank you so much. We will meet again in the next lecture. Thank you.